If you had walked past my bathroom yesterday morning, you would have thought I was getting ready for a normal day. Soft music from my phone on the counter, the smell of coffee drifting in from the kitchen, my dog Baxter thumping his tail against the hallway wall as he waited for breakfast. Nothing about that moment looked like the beginning of the end of a relationship. I was standing in front of the mirror, towel wrapped around my body, hair twisted up in a messy clip. My skin was still pink from the shower. I had my leg propped up on the edge of the tub, absent-mindedly running lotion over my calf, when Greg leaned against the doorframe and said, in the most casual voice in the world, "Babe, we need to talk about your body hair." At first I laughed, thinking he was joking. "What? Did my razor offend you?" I teased, still focused on rubbing lotion into my skin. He didn't laugh. When I finally looked up, his reflection in the mirror made my stomach drop. He wasn't smiling. His jaw was tight, arms crossed over his chest, eyes scanning my body like he was inspecting something that didn't meet quality control. "I'm serious," he said. "It disgusts me." The word hung in the air like a bad smell. "Disgusts you?" I repeated, the bottle of lotion suddenly heavy in my hand. He stepped into the bathroom, lowering his voice like he was sharing something deeply vulnerable instead of casually detonating a bomb in the middle of my life. "Your arm hair, your legs. Down there," he said, gesturing vaguely, not even embarrassed. I can't stop thinking about it. I literally gag when I think about touching it. I need you to get laser hair removal, like everywhere. Arms, legs, bikini, permanently. I felt heat rise in my chest, not from shame yet, just shock. "Greg, we've been together for 15 months. We've slept together how many times? You're just now gagging?" He rolled his eyes like I was being unreasonable. "I didn't want to hurt your feelings before," he said, "but this is serious. If you don't do it, it's going to be a deal breaker for me." For a second, I thought I'd misheard him. My brain tried to smooth it over, to turn it into something softer, a preference, a suggestion, a weird joke. But then he kept going. "You can book laser sessions for your forearms, legs, and everything else," he continued, ticking the areas off on his fingers like he was listing items on a grocery run. "If you love me and want a future with me, this is a small sacrifice. I shouldn't have to beg you to make your body less—" He hesitated, then finished, "hairy." Something sharp twisted under my ribs. "And you expect me to pay for this?" I asked slowly. He looked genuinely confused that I even needed to ask. "Well, yeah," he said. "It's your body. It's a permanent improvement. You're the one who benefits long term." In that tiny, steamed-up bathroom, with lotion drying on my skin and Baxter whining softly at the door because he could sense the tension, I felt something fundamental crack. On the surface, it was about hair, about a man who suddenly claimed to be repulsed by something that had never bothered him before. But standing there in front of that mirror, watching my own face go from confused to hurt to something colder, I realized this wasn't just a weird, isolated demand. It was a test, a line he was daring me to cross, and depending on how I answered, my entire life was about to change in ways I couldn't yet imagine. I didn't know that within weeks, I would be packing my life into boxes, hiding out at my brother's house, talking to police officers about restraining orders, and learning exactly how far Greg was willing to go to control me. All I knew in that moment was this: the man who claimed to love me was looking at my body like it was a problem to be fixed. And for the first time since I met him, I looked back at him and thought, maybe the problem isn't me at all. If you had asked me 6 months ago to describe my relationship with Greg, I probably would have said something embarrassingly optimistic. I was 28, working a stable marketing job, living in a modest but cozy apartment with my golden retriever mix, Baxter. I wasn't desperate for love, but I was open to it. And when Greg walked into my life, he felt easy, familiar, like the kind of man who could fit into a quiet, predictable future. We met at a friend's dinner party, one of those gatherings where everyone pretends the mismatched chairs and lukewarm pasta salad are part of the charm. Greg was standing near the kitchen island, talking about real estate trends with a confidence that was almost magnetic. He was 33, tall, clean-cut, with the kind of smile that made you feel chosen when he turned it toward you. He noticed me first. "You're the only person here who looks like she wants to escape," he teased, handing me a glass of wine. I laughed. "I'm just here for the garlic bread." It was easy conversation from there, effortless in a way that made me drop my guard. He texted me that same night, and by the end of the week, we had our first official date. Nothing extravagant. A walk by the river, dinner at a small place with string lights hanging over the patio. Baxter didn't like him, though. Looking back, that should have meant something. Every time Greg came over, Baxter's ears flattened, and he'd slip out of the room like he was avoiding a storm. I'd joke about it. He's picky with men, don't take it personally. And Greg always smirked like it was a challenge. Still, the honeymoon phase carried us. Greg seemed thoughtful at first. He'd notice when I was tired and bring takeout. He'd text during the day to check in. He'd rest his hand on the small of my back while walking through crowds, a gesture that felt protective then, though in hindsight, maybe it was more about possession than care. Sometimes, though, the mask would slip. The first sign was small. So small, I convinced myself it was nothing. We were at a summer barbecue at my mom's house. I reached for a second slice of cake, and Greg leaned in and whispered, "Careful, babe, you're already pushing it." My smile froze halfway. "I'm hungry," I whispered back. He shrugged, took my plate, and jokingly said to my brothers, "She has zero self-control with sugar." Everyone laughed, except me, and except Baxter, who growled low near my feet, his tail stiff. Greg kissed my temple afterward as if that erased anything. I told myself it did. Months later, at a birthday dinner, he complained my dress was too revealing. "It's knee length," I reminded him, baffled. "There are men here staring. You're embarrassing me," he muttered, gripping my wrist under the table hard enough that my fingers tingled. Again, a red flag I folded neatly and tucked away. He had his charming days, too. He brought flowers when I got promoted. He planned a weekend getaway for our 1-year anniversary. He talked about our future like it was a given. A house, kids, a dog that wasn't disobedient like Baxter. It wasn't perfect, but what relationship is? I told myself he just had insecurities, that his comments weren't meant to hurt. I didn't know then how deep that need for control ran, how it would sharpen into something terrifying, how a simple conversation about body hair would unravel the entire truth of who Greg really was. Still, before everything fell apart, there were bright spots, moments when he seemed gentle, when I could picture a quiet, steady life with him. And maybe that's why I stayed, because the good parts felt real enough to make me ignore the parts that weren't. I didn't know that those small comments were seeds, tiny, poisonous ones, that would grow into the moment he stood in my bathroom and said he was disgusted by my body. I didn't see the pattern until it was too late, until the mask finally cracked. For a long time, I told myself Greg's quirks were just that, quirks. Rough edges he'd smooth out as the relationship grew, but looking back now, I can trace every fracture in our foundation to small moments that felt off, even if I didn't admit it then. The first shift happened around month 8. We were getting ready for a double date with one of his coworkers and his wife. I was applying mascara in my bedroom mirror when Greg walked in, leaned on the doorframe, and stared at me with a strange expression. "What?" I asked, laughing a little. "Your arms," he said. "My arms?" I blinked. He stepped closer, running his fingers lightly along my forearm. "You ever think about waxing these?" I stiffened. "They're blonde, Greg. You can barely see them." "Yeah, but still, smooth skin is better." I shrugged him off and tried to laugh it away. "I'm not waxing my arms. That sounds painful." His jaw twitched. "It just looks more feminine." I should have pushed back harder, but I didn't want an argument before dinner. I brushed it aside, even though something inside me, something small but sharp, lodged itself under my ribs. Then came the night he saw a girl at the gym with hairless arms and whispered, "See? That's what I mean." I'd pretended not to hear him. Or the night at home when he was scrolling through Instagram, showing me models with perfectly manicured bodies. "You could try this style," he suggested, pointing to a woman with impossibly smooth skin. "Greg," I said softly, "that's not me." He kissed my forehead. It could be. Little moments, all of them. But they were planting something. A quiet doubt. A question about whether he saw me or just a version of me he wanted to sculpt. Even Baxter sensed it. Greg would show irritation whenever my dog chose to sit beside me instead of him. "He's needy," Greg complained once. "Like you." "I'm not needy," I said with a weak smile. Greg lifted a brow. "You are, but that's why I'm good for you." The tension grew thicker the closer we became. He wanted more control, subtle at first, then sharper. He made comments about my clothes. "That top is too tight. That color washes you out. Why don't you dress more like Emma from work? She always looks polished." He made comments about my food. "You're eating carbs again? Don't you want to stay in shape? You should plan your meals better." He made comments about my friends. "Do you really need them? They don't understand us. You're different when you're around them." I didn't realize those phrases were carving pieces out of me. Small, almost invisible pieces. I chalked it up to stress, insecurity, bad days. Everyone had flaws, right? My family noticed before I did. Matt pulled me aside after a Sunday dinner. "You okay?" he asked, arms crossed, studying my face. "Yeah, why?" "You seem smaller, quieter." I laughed it off. "I'm fine, just work stress." He didn't look convinced. Baxter pressed his head into my leg, offering silent solidarity. The real shift, the moment the air between Greg and me changed, happened one night after we'd been intimate. He traced his hand along my thigh, paused over a faint patch of hair I'd missed shaving, and said, "You know, if you took this seriously, I'd find you much more attractive." My breath stilled. "Greg," I whispered, "that's hurtful." He sighed dramatically, rolling onto his back. "I'm just being honest. You want honesty, right?" The way he said it made me feel like I was overreacting, like I was fragile. I apologized for having normal body hair. Looking back, that was the moment I began shrinking to fit inside his expectations. Those seeds he planted didn't sprout overnight. They grew quietly, wrapped in the illusion of love. And by the time he stood in my bathroom and told me my body disgusted him, every root of those earlier moments had wrapped themselves around my confidence, my judgment, my sense of safety. I should have seen it earlier. But that's the thing about slow-growing poison. You don't realize it's killing you until you're already gasping for air. If the earlier comments were seeds, then that morning in my bathroom was the moment they bloomed. Violently, all at once, with no warning. I was still standing in front of the mirror, lotion drying unevenly on my skin, when Greg stepped closer, like he was approaching something repulsive yet inescapable. "Greg, what are you talking about?" I finally asked, my voice small in the humid air. He exhaled, annoyed, like I wasn't keeping up. "I'm talking about your body hair, babe. It's gross. It ruins things for me." The word gross sliced straight through me. I had never had a partner say anything that cruel about my body. I tried to steady myself, gripping the counter behind me. "You've never mentioned this before," I said quietly. "Well, that's because I didn't want to embarrass you." He shrugged, like he deserved a medal for his restraint. I felt my throat tighten. Embarrass me? If anything, I felt the hot flush of humiliation burning up my chest now. "You act like I have some extreme issue," I said. "I'm not even that hairy." "It doesn't matter," he cut in. "It bothers me. Every time I touch you, I feel it. It turns me off." The blow landed so precisely it stole my breath. "Every time?" I asked, voice cracking. He hesitated, just long enough to confirm the truth. "Yes," he said, "every time." My hands shook. I crossed my arms over my chest instinctively, trying to cover what? Something natural? Something human? "Greg," I whispered, "this is really hurtful." He sighed, impatient. "Why are you acting like I'm attacking you? I'm telling you the truth because I love you, and because I want this relationship to work." He stepped forward, cupping my jaw like he was doing something tender, but I felt caged. "This is a tiny thing," he murmured, "a tiny sacrifice. Laser hair removal isn't a big deal." "It's expensive," I said. "It hurts, and I don't—" He interrupted again, voice sharper now. "You're overreacting. You shave anyway. This is just a permanent version. You should be grateful I'm even willing to talk about it instead of walking away." Grateful? Grateful for what? Being told my body disgusted my partner? My heartbeat thudded unevenly in my ears. "Greg," I whispered, "why now? After 15 months? He shrugged. "I've been thinking about it for a while. Like, a long while. I just can't pretend anymore." My vision blurred slightly, not from tears, but from a dizzy, surreal disconnect. Like I was watching a stranger wearing Greg's face. "So if I say no, you'll break up with me?" The words tasted metallic. He held my gaze, unblinking. "Yeah, I will." A quiet tremor moved through me. Not fear, realization. "Why is this a deal breaker?" I asked, voice tight. "Because," he said simply, "I need to be attracted to the person I'm with, and hair is a turnoff." "Women have hair, Greg," I said. "It's normal." "Maybe for other women," he snapped, "but not for the woman I'm with." Something inside me snapped like a worn thread. "And you expect me to pay for it?" I asked, swallowing hard. He looked offended I even asked. "It's your body," he repeated. "I shouldn't have to pay to fix something that benefits you long term. And honestly, refusing to invest in yourself is kind of a red flag." I stared at him. The audacity felt like a physical slap. "Invest in myself," I echoed slowly. "By removing hair you don't like?" He laughed, like I was the unreasonable one. "Yes," he said. "God, you're being dramatic." I felt something icy settle into my stomach. Not sadness or anger, clarity. Greg, I whispered, what if I don't want to change my body for you? His expression hardened, all softness gone. Then, he said, voice low and certain, you're choosing your hair over our relationship. He walked out of the bathroom as if the conversation were finished, as if he had just proposed something rational, fair, loving. I stood there alone, wrapped in a towel, my reflection staring back at me, wide-eyed, disbelieving, humiliated. My skin prickled, not with shame, but with the sudden awareness that the man I'd been imagining a future with saw my body as defective. A soft sound broke the silence. Baxter nudging the door open with his nose. He patted in, pressing his warm head against my knee as if sensing the collapse happening inside me. My breath shook. I don't know what I did wrong, I whispered to him. He whined softly, resting his chin on my foot. And that was the moment it hit me, sharp and undeniable. This wasn't about hair, it was about control. And Greg had finally revealed just how far he intended to take it. From the hallway, Greg's voice carried casually. Let me know when you book the appointment. As if he hadn't shattered something sacred. As if he thought I would just obey. I didn't follow Greg out of the bathroom, not immediately. I stayed there, gripping the edge of the counter until my knuckles bleached white, trying to quiet the ringing in my ears. My towel felt suddenly inadequate, like I was exposed in ways I'd never agreed to be. I kept staring at my reflection. Same arms, same legs, same body I'd lived in my entire life. And yet, under his words, it all looked wrong. Not to me, to him. I hated that distinction mattered. Baxter leaned against my leg, grounding me. His warmth anchored me to the moment, kept me from floating off into that numb space where humiliation sometimes sends you. Am I crazy? I whispered to him. His tail thumped weakly. No, you're not, the sound seemed to say. But Greg's voice echoed louder. It disgusts me. 2 words with the precision of a knife. Finally, I wrapped my towel tighter and walked into the bedroom. Greg was sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling through his phone, completely unbothered, as if we had just discussed scheduling a dentist appointment instead of ripping apart the foundation of our relationship. I need to understand something, I said quietly. Yeah? He replied without looking up. You've been intimate with me for over a year. You've touched my body hundreds of times. Why say something this extreme now? He shrugged. I pushed it down before, but it builds up, you know. I figured honesty was better. Honesty? I clenched the edge of my towel to keep from shaking. That wasn't honesty, Greg. That was cruelty. He finally looked at me, irritation flashing in his eyes. See? This is why I didn't bring it up earlier. You're so sensitive. Sensitive. Another weaponized word. I'm sensitive because you told me my body disgusts you, I said, voice trembling. Oh my God, he groaned. Stop being dramatic. It's just hair. You're acting like I insulted your entire existence. You basically did. He rolled his eyes. You're twisting things. Was I? A part of me, small, conditioned, loyal, wondered if I was reading it wrong. If maybe I was overreacting. If maybe I had failed some imaginary test of being the cool girlfriend who can take criticism. But another part, deeper, quieter, wiser, whispered, no, you're not wrong. This is not love. I sat down on the chair near the window, putting space between us. Greg, why do you even want to be with me if you feel this way? He blinked, genuinely confused by the question. Because I love you. I laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. You love me, but my body disgusts you? Don't twist my words, he snapped. Parts of your body bother me. Not all of it. You're making this huge. You made it huge, I said softly. You gave me an ultimatum. He stood abruptly. Because I need to know you're committed, that you'll do what it takes to make us work. By permanently changing my body? Yes, he said, exasperated. Why is that so hard to get? If something about me bothered you, I'd fix it. That's not the same, and you know it. He scoffed, annoyed that logic didn't bend to his will. Look, I'm asking for something that improves our relationship long-term, and your body long-term. You should be thanking me. That did it. The towel felt suffocating now, as if his words had seeped into the fabric. I stood and walked toward my dresser, pulling on a loose t-shirt and shorts. My hands shook only a little. I'm not making any decisions right now, I said. Greg crossed his arms. That sounds like a no. It's not a yes. So it's a no, he repeated firmer. Just say it. I breathed slowly. I need time, Greg. This was a lot. He scoffed. Take all the time you want. Just know where I stand. He grabbed his keys from the nightstand, muttering, unbelievable, as he walked past me. When the door shut behind him, the entire apartment seemed to exhale. I sank onto the floor beside Baxter, who rested his head on my thigh, My breath finally broke, shaky and uneven. Suddenly, everything I'd been ignoring, the comments, the subtle control, the tension I blamed on myself, clicked into place. A pattern, a slow tightening, a lesson I was never supposed to notice. He wants power, I realized, over my body, over my choices, over me. And the sickest part? If he had asked 6 months earlier, I might have said yes. Not anymore. My phone buzzed. A message from Greg. Don't take too long. This shouldn't be a hard choice if you love me. I stared at the screen, heart pounding, not from love, but from clarity. Something had changed, something irreversible. I wasn't afraid of losing him. I was afraid of losing myself if I stayed. Greg didn't give me space, not even for 24 hours. The morning after our bathroom confrontation, I woke to 5 unread messages from him, each one more insistent than the last. Greg, did you book the laser appointment yet? Greg, we should pick a clinic together. I found 3 good ones. Greg, you're not ignoring this, right? Greg, this is important to me. Greg, to us. I stared at my phone in disbelief. Baxter curled at my feet. My stomach tightened, not with indecision this time, but with the first spark of anger. Real anger. The kind that comes from finally seeing someone without the fog of excuses. He didn't care how much his words hurt me. He cared that I hadn't obeyed. I didn't answer him that morning. Instead, I drove to my mom's house. I hadn't planned on telling her everything, not yet. But the moment she opened the door and saw my face, she pulled me into a tight hug. Honey, what's wrong? I sat at her kitchen table, tracing invisible circles on the wood, trying to find the right words. When I told her the story, every detail, her expression went from shock to anger to something fierce and protective. That's not love, she said firmly. That's control. Before I could respond, my brothers, Matt and Jason, walked in through the back door carrying a toolbox. They'd been fixing something in the garage. When they saw my expression, they froze. What happened? Matt asked. I tried to brush it off. Nothing, I'm fine. Jason pulled out a chair. Sit, talk. So I told them. Everything. Every comment Greg had made over the past year, every subtle jab, every criticism I had minimized or laughed off. When I repeated Greg's exact words, your body hair disgusts me, both my brothers went still. Matt's jaw flexed. He said what? Jason shook his head slowly. You need to get away from him. I swallowed. It's not that simple. No, Matt said sharply. It is. But I wasn't ready to admit that yet. Later that afternoon, I drove home. Greg was waiting in the hallway outside my apartment, leaning on the wall like he owned the place. Baxter growled the second he saw him. Why aren't you answering me? Greg demanded. I needed space. For what? He laughed incredulously. To decide if you want to be attractive for your boyfriend? My pulse hammered. Greg, I said quietly, stop. You're being cruel. I'm being honest, he snapped. You're the one making this dramatic. Just get the damn laser treatment and we're fine. I stepped past him, unlocking my door. You need to leave. He blocked the doorway with his hand. We're not done. Yes, I said firmly, meeting his eyes for the first time that day. We are. He stared at me for a long moment, something cold flashing behind his composure. Then he stepped back. This is a test, he said, and you're failing it. I shut the door in his face, locked every lock, and slid to the floor with Baxter beside me. Inside my chest, something shifted, a quiet, steady decision beginning to take shape. But Greg didn't accept distance. He escalated. Over the next few days, he sent long voice messages explaining how much pressure he was under at work, how he felt I didn't appreciate his honesty, how I needed to meet him halfway for the relationship to work. He said things like, "You're blowing this out of proportion. Stop letting other people influence you. I'm trying to help you be better. If you love me, this wouldn't even be a fight." Every message was a tug of war between manipulation and faux vulnerability. I didn't respond. On the 4th day of silence, he showed up at my work. I was in the middle of a project meeting when my coworker leaned over and whispered, "There's a guy asking for you in the lobby. He says it's urgent." My stomach dropped. I excused myself and stepped into the hallway. Greg was waiting by the front desk, pacing like a storm cloud in human form. "What are you doing here?" I hissed. "We need to talk," he said, privately. "No." He blinked like he couldn't comprehend refusal. "You don't get to shut me out like this. I'm not discussing my body in my workplace lobby." "You're being ridiculous." "Greg," I said sharply, "leave." A security guard began walking toward us, noticing the tension. Greg's face twisted with humiliation. "You're choosing your ego over us," he said under his breath. "I'm just trying to fix things." "There's nothing to fix." He stared at me for a long, painful moment. Then he walked out. My legs shook the entire way back to the meeting room. But the worst escalation came later that night, when I was lying in bed with Baxter asleep beside me. My phone vibrated. A text from Greg. "If you don't do laser, I don't know if I can stay loyal." My breath caught. Stay loyal? So now he was threatening cheating as leverage? Then, other women take care of themselves. You're letting yourself go. My heart pounded painfully. This wasn't insecurity anymore. It was punishment. Then the final message. Last chance. Book the appointment. Prove you care. That was the moment something hardened inside me. Not breaking. Transforming. I realized that staying with Greg meant slowly abandoning myself, my autonomy, my boundaries, my peace. I would spend every year shaving myself down to fit his preferences, shrinking until there was nothing left of me. I didn't want that life, not anymore. And somewhere deep inside, a voice, my voice, finally spoke with certainty. Leave. Little did I know that trying to leave would trigger a version of Greg I hadn't met yet. A version capable of crossing lines I never imagined he'd approach. But before it all spiraled, before the stalking and the restraining orders and the fear, I had to choose myself first. And that choice began tonight. The night everything broke open wasn't loud. There were no fights, no slammed doors, no accusations hurled across a room. It was the kind of night that destroys you quietly, slow, suffocating, like drowning under still water. I was sitting on my couch, lights off except for the soft yellow glow from a lamp in the corner. Baxter lay curled at my feet, his steady breathing a small comfort in a room that suddenly felt too big. My phone buzzed again, lighting up with Greg's name for what felt like the 1,000th time that week. I didn't pick up, but I read the message anyway. Greg, I don't understand why you're doing this. Why are you sabotaging us? Why is hair more important to you than our future? I exhaled shakily, pressing my palms into my eyes until stars burst behind them. My chest felt like it was collapsing inward, crushed by the weight of something I couldn't name. Shame, anger, fear, all of it. I typed, deleted, retyped. Nothing seemed right. Nothing seemed enough. Because how do you explain to someone who claims to love you that they are the very thing breaking you? I didn't reply. A minute later, another buzz. Greg, you know I'm right. You know it. Your brothers are poisoning your mind. Your mom never liked me. You're acting like a child. I felt that one like a blow to the sternum. And then, Greg, stop ignoring me. You're hurting me on purpose. A tear slipped down my cheek before I even realized I was crying. I wiped it away angrily, frustrated at him, at me, at the fact that I was letting this man twist me into someone I didn't recognize. It wasn't just his words anymore. It was the way he had wormed into my self-doubt, turning every insecurity into a mirror I couldn't avoid. I felt small, smaller than I had in years, like a version of myself that existed only in his shadow. The pressure in my chest grew heavier. I curled forward and pressed my forehead to Baxter's warm fur. He lifted his head slightly, nudging me as if reminding me I wasn't alone. But I felt alone, more alone than I had in the entire relationship. The breaking point happened sometime after midnight. My phone buzzed again, this time a voicemail. My hand shook as I pressed play. Greg's voice came through the speaker, low and tight. You don't get to make decisions like this without consequences, he said. You're throwing away everything we built over a stupid insecurity about hair. Do the laser. Stop being stubborn. I'm exhausted with you. Then silence. And listen, if you push me away, I can't promise I'll stay faithful. I'm a man. I have needs. I shouldn't have to beg you to be attractive. The message ended, and with it, something inside me collapsed completely. It wasn't the words. It was the revelation. He never loved me. He loved control. Control disguised as concern. Demands disguised as devotion. Every comment about my weight, every insistence on what clothing I wore, every critique of my makeup, every suggestion about my diet, every comparison to other women. All of it was part of the same slow erosion. There was no love in it, only domination wearing the mask of a relationship. I pulled my knees to my chest, arms wrapped around them, the way I hadn't done since I was a child. Tears soaked my shirt, but I didn't wipe them away anymore. They came too fast, too steady. Why wasn't I enough? I whispered into the dark. The question hung in the air, taunting. But another voice inside me, quiet but fierce, finally answered. You were enough. He just wanted someone he could mold, not someone who could think or choose. The truth stung, but it steadied me. Even so, the fear crept in. The fear of being alone, of starting over, of facing the collapse of everything I thought we were building. There's a kind of heartbreak that isn't about losing love, but about losing the illusion of it. That's what shattered inside me that night. At one point, I looked at myself in the reflection of the black TV screen, eyes swollen, breath shaky, a mess of emotions, and I didn't recognize the person staring back. Not because she was broken, but because she was waking up. And waking up is painful. It means realizing how much of yourself you handed over to someone who never deserved it. I stayed on the couch until dawn, exhausted, hollow, and yet more aware than ever. Something had to change. Something would change. Because the darkest moment is always the one right before you decide you will not live one more day the same way. And as the sun began to rise through my blinds, streaking the room with soft gold, I finally whispered into Baxter's fur, the first true decision I'd made in months. "I'm leaving him." The words trembled, but they were real, and they were mine. Tomorrow, everything would begin unfolding, but tonight, I had reached the bottom. And from the bottom, there is only one way left to go. Up. By the next morning, I felt hungover, emotionally drained, eyelids heavy, head pounding from hours of crying. But beneath the exhaustion, something steady had formed, a thin steel line running down my spine. I wasn't healed, I wasn't confident, but I was done. Done shrinking, done apologizing, done allowing Greg to dictate the terms of my existence. Still, I knew leaving someone as controlling as Greg required strategy, not impulse. The shift, the true turning point, came from an unexpected place. Late morning, while drinking lukewarm coffee and trying to keep Baxter from chewing on a sock, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Maya, one of my coworkers. We weren't close friends, but she was kind, observant, the type of person who notices when someone disappears into themselves. "Hey," I answered softly. "You okay?" she asked without preamble. I blinked. "What makes you ask?" "You seemed off yesterday, and I saw your boyfriend in the lobby. He looked angry." I felt heat creep up my neck. "He shouldn't have come. I'm sorry if he made a scene." "You don't need to apologize for someone else's behavior," she said gently. Her tone, calm, neutral, non-judgmental, softened something inside me. I hesitated. "We got into a big fight." "About what?" I almost told her body hair, but the shame of it stuck in my throat. How do you admit your boyfriend was repulsed by something so basic, so human? But Maya waited patiently. So I told her, not every detail, but enough. When I finished, there was a long pause. "Wow," she said finally. "I'm sorry, that's not normal, hun." I swallowed hard. "I know." "No," she repeated, firmer. "I mean, it's not normal for someone who loves you. That's not preference. That's control." Hearing it from someone neutral, someone who didn't know Greg, who had no bias, hit different. It stripped away my excuses, my rationalizations. "And showing up at your job," she continued, "that's a red flag. Huge one." A heavy breath left me. "I've been thinking about ending things." "I think you should," she said softly, "and make sure you're safe doing it." Those last words stayed with me. As we hung up, I stared at my coffee mug, hands trembling slightly. "Make sure you're safe doing it." She wasn't being dramatic. She was being realistic. Greg's behavior wasn't normal. His escalation wasn't normal. His fixation wasn't normal. I wasn't losing my mind. I wasn't overreacting. I was seeing clearly for the first time. The next moment of clarity came when I checked my email. Greg had sent another message around 2 a.m. Long, rambling, desperate. But near the end was a sentence that made my blood run cold. "If you think you can leave without explaining yourself to me, you're wrong." Wrong. The words slithered under my skin like ice. He truly believed I owed him my body, my time, my attention, my explanation, whatever he demanded. That was the moment fear finally replaced sadness. Fear and resolve. Around noon, I drove to my mother's house to talk in person. Matt was there too, tinkering with something in the garage. When he saw me walk in, his expression hardened. "What did he do now?" he asked. I handed him my phone with Greg's newest messages. Matt scrolled. His face went still. "This isn't a boyfriend," he said. "This is someone who thinks he owns you." My mom nodded, arms crossed. "Honey, you cannot stay with this man. Not for another week. Not for another day." Their certainty helped crystallize mine. "I'm leaving him," I said. Saying it aloud sent a rush of fear through me, but also a strange lightness. Matt placed a hand on my shoulder. "Good. Now let's make a plan to do it safely." We sat at the kitchen table and strategized step by step. What to pack, when to leave, how to avoid Greg showing up. Matt offered his spare bedroom. My mom insisted I stay with her at least for a few nights while transitioning. It was the first time in weeks that I felt supported, not just emotionally, but practically. I wasn't alone anymore. That night, after Baxter fell asleep at the foot of the bed, I sat in the dark and replayed the past year. Not the romantic moments Greg loved to weaponize, but the subtle humiliations I had swallowed quietly. His comments about my weight, his critiques of my makeup, his disapproval of my clothes, his disdain for my friends, his judgment of my body. Every piece formed a mosaic I had refused to see before. But now I saw the whole picture. Greg didn't want a girlfriend. He wanted a project, one he could sculpt until she existed only in the shape of his desires. And here's the thing about waking up. Once your eyes open, you can't unsee. I wasn't leaving because of hair. I was leaving because of everything under it. My autonomy, my dignity, my safety. The turning point wasn't a dramatic explosion. It was a quiet reclaiming. I deserve better. I deserve safety. I deserve a love that doesn't require erasing myself. Tomorrow I would put the plan into action. Tonight, I let myself whisper the words again, stronger this time, as Baxter raised his head and nudged my hand. I'm leaving him, and he will not take another piece of me. The decision was made. The path was drawn. But the fallout was still ahead. Leaving Greg wasn't a single moment. It was a sequence, a carefully timed escape, a quiet unraveling of ties, a reclaiming of space he had tried to colonize inside me. The morning of the breakup, Matt drove to my apartment with his truck. Jason followed behind in his car, and my mom stayed on standby at home, checking her phone every few minutes in case things escalated. We moved quickly, wordlessly, clothes into boxes, important documents into a folder, Baxter's toys into a grocery bag, my favorite mugs wrapped in towels. Every item I packed felt like peeling off another layer of Greg's influence. My brothers kept watch near the windows. He won't show, Matt murmured. But if he does, I'm here. I believed him. We finished in under 4 hours. The apartment looked hollow without my things, echoey, stripped bare, like a stage after the show ends. It struck me then how little in that space had truly been mine emotionally, even if I owned every object. Before we left, I stood in the center of the living room and let myself breathe one last time in that space, not for nostalgia, but for closure. Then I locked the door, handed the keys to my landlady, and didn't look back. The breakup text wasn't poetic. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't meant to be. I typed, Greg, I have not scheduled any laser appointments. I'm not going to. Your demands were controlling and disrespectful. This relationship is over. Do not contact me again. Then I blocked his number. Silence settled like a curtain, but only for an hour. My phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. Against better judgment, I answered. Greg's voice exploded through the speaker. Where are you? His tone, outraged, unhinged, sent a cold thrill down my spine. I'm done, Greg, I said calmly. You lied to me, he spat. You said you were getting laser. I said that to protect myself while I made a plan to leave. You manipulative, he sucked in a sharp breath. You owe me a conversation, a face-to-face explanation. No, I don't, I said quietly. The relationship is over. You can't just disappear from my life. But I already had. I ended the call and blocked the new number. What followed next was the kind of fallout only a controlling person experiences when their grip slips. He spiraled. He called my mother, my work, mutual friends, everyone he could still access. He left voicemails dripping with anger, then desperation, then fake tenderness. Messages like, you're making a mistake. We can fix this if you stop being dramatic. Your family is manipulating you. Just talk to me. You'll regret this. But I didn't respond, not once. And with every ignored message, he grew louder, not to me, but to everyone else. He tried to spin a narrative. He said I had overreacted. He said I was unstable. He said my family brainwashed me. But the more he tried to explain himself, the more people saw exactly who he was. Mutual friends called me privately. Greg is telling people you ruined his life, but honestly, his reaction is insane. Did he really demand you laser off your hair? Permanently? I had no idea he was like that. One friend admitted. He showed us screenshots trying to make you look unreasonable, but it backfired. It made him look obsessive. Every attempt Greg made to control the narrative only highlighted the truth. I left him because he tried to control me. Then came the incident at Matt's house. 5 days after the move, Greg showed up unannounced. I wasn't home, but Matt was, and he told me the whole thing afterward. Greg hammered on the door, yelling my name, demanding to speak to the woman who betrayed him. Matt opened the door just enough to block the entrance. She doesn't live here, he said. Where is she? Greg barked. Not here. Not for you. Leave. Greg tried to shove past him, but Matt, bigger, calmer, and absolutely done, stood his ground. She ended it, Matt said. Respect that, or the police will get involved. Greg's face contorted. You people poisoned her. Matt simply shut the door. Greg pounded a few more times, then stormed off. When Matt told me, I felt something unexpected. Not fear, not guilt, relief. Because for the first time, I saw Greg through someone else's eyes. And what they saw confirmed everything I had been trying to deny. The true collapse came later. After I got a restraining order. After he violated it by sending flowers. After the police warned him consequences were real. His reputation took a hit, not because I exposed him, but because he revealed himself. One coworker of his even reached out to me discreetly. He talks about you nonstop. People are uncomfortable. He's not handling this well. Another mutual friend told me, he said your family destroyed him, but honestly, he destroyed himself long before you left. His mother sent me a message through her daughter. I'm so sorry. We suspected his controlling behavior, but we didn't know it had gotten this bad. Greg wasn't the victim. He was the architect of his own downfall. And I walked away without lifting a hand to harm him. The truth harmed him all on its own. In the end, the fallout didn't crush me. It cleared the air. It showed me who Greg really was, who my family was for me, and who I had become. Someone who could walk away, even shaking, even scared, but still choosing herself. I didn't get revenge. I didn't need to. Reality did it for me, and I felt lighter with every step away. 6 months later, my life didn't look anything like it used to. And for the first time, that felt like a blessing, not a loss. My new apartment was small, warm, lived in. A mismatched thrift store dining table, some plants struggling for sunlight, a couch Baxter had already claimed as his throne. It wasn't perfect, but neither was I, and maybe that's why it felt like home. Work became a source of confidence again, instead of a stage Greg might criticize from the sidelines. I smiled more. I slept better. My laughter didn't come out filtered or calculated. I'd forgotten what it felt like to exist without monitoring myself through someone else's gaze. One evening, after taking Baxter for a walk in the crisp air around my new neighborhood, I sat on the floor beside him and ran my hand through the fur on his back. Soft, natural, real. He sighed contentedly and rested his head in my lap. And suddenly it hit me just how profound the transformation was. I didn't miss Greg. I didn't miss the version of myself who tolerated him. I didn't miss the emotional tightrope I'd been forced to walk every day. What I mourned, if anything, was how long it had taken to see the truth. Love doesn't require shrinking. Affection doesn't demand obedience, and anyone who tries to control your body is trying to control you. 6 months ago, I was terrified of losing Greg. Now I was grateful I had lost him before losing myself. I had learned that red flags don't always wave, they whisper. Softly, persistently, until one day you wake up and realize they've been screaming the whole time. Healing didn't happen overnight. Some mornings I still questioned my choices. Some nights I still jolted awake from dreams of him shouting my name. But more often, I woke up to sunlight through my curtains, the sound of Baxter's paws on the floor, and the quiet certainty that my life was my own again. The lesson I carry now, and the one I want anyone listening to hear, is simple. Your body is not up for debate. Your worth is not conditional. Your autonomy is not negotiable. If someone claims to love you, but demands you change who you are to fit their preferences, that isn't love. That is possession dressed in affection's clothing. And you deserve better. Better than conditions. Better than ultimatums. Better than being someone's project. When I finally walked away, I wasn't walking into loneliness. I was walking toward myself. Toward the version of me who had been waiting quietly beneath the surface, hoping I'd choose her someday. And I did. I'm stronger now. Softer, too. More protective of myself. More comfortable in my own skin, hair and all. And as I look at the life ahead, steady and bright, I realize something. The truest love I found in all of this was the love I finally gave back to myself.